As more and more businesses have moved to remote work, an increase in unmanaged devices has created a significant threat to their security. Globally, there has been a 238% increase in cyber attacks. Businesses need managed security now more than ever. That's why we created Microsoft 365 Lighthouse, an admin portal that helps IT partners like managed service providers secure and manage devices, data, and users at scale for small and medium-sized businesses. It simplifies onboarding and management of tenants, provides a view of customer environments, and recommends minimum configuration baselines. MSPs can now drive standardization, increase service quality, and identify opportunities to upsell additional managed services. By combining security alerts into a single portal, you can efficiently detect and remediate vulnerabilities, allowing you to proactively manage risk. Elevate your client's security by bringing everyone up to the same standard baseline. Through recommended settings optimized to your clients, you can standardize configuration across your customer base, reducing risk. By design, customer management at scale, proactive risk management, and standardized configurations help improve security for your customers. Easily onboard all your small and medium-sized customers using Microsoft 365 Business Premium and E3 tenants from one portal. It's available to your organization at no cost. In order to be eligible, simply enroll in the Cloud Solution Provider Program, establish delegated administration privileges with customers, and enroll with Intune for device compliance capabilities. Grow your offering by giving your clients the protection and peace of mind they need. Visit Microsoft 365 Lighthouse today.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our 2 p.m. Friday partner call and our Lighthouse special presentation from our friends on the Microsoft 365 Lighthouse team, who are here today to tell you all about how to manage your tenants at scale when running Microsoft 365. And we are very, very excited to have our friends with us here. We are going to be monitoring the Q&A behind the scenes. My team will also be monitoring the lobby. I'm going to soon turn it over to Chris Boyd from Microsoft, who's going to give us a quick overview and introduction of the team. And we will also be monitoring for questions and Q&A to post up there. Towards the end of the call, we are also going to have a live Q&A session. You should all have the ability to raise your hands if you do have a question, and we will get to you as quickly as possible as time permits to get those questions answered live right here on the call. Without further ado, Chris, would you like me to bring you on stage?
Happy to. And I'll take over sharing.
Looks great.
Looks great on your side. Awesome. Thanks, David, for giving us the opportunity to share M365 Lighthouse with all your community. A little bit of background about us. We're the product team that's very much focused on helping our partners be successful at deploying, securing, and managing our shared SMB customers. So we do a bunch of work, clearly we do a bunch of work around M365 Lighthouse. We want to provide an experience and a service that allows you to scale across your SMB customers and be able to manage them successfully. But we also do a lot of work in the space of GDAP. So Meg is going to share some scenarios around GDAP that we're enabling in Lighthouse or have enabled in Lighthouse. But we also spend a bunch of time working with teams within Microsoft around GDAP and making GDAP successful, and then other activities around enabling the success of M365 with our shared SMB customers. But with that, today we're focused on M365 Lighthouse. And if you're not familiar with M365 Lighthouse, it is a relatively new service that we provide for free to our managed service providers. Specifically, we're focused on folks that are part of our CSP program as a reseller or a direct bill partner to manage their customers. We want to provide this service so that you can consistently manage those customers, monitor for the health of them, get things deployed out in a consistent way. And our hypothesis is that will really help you scale your business. So on those kind of pillars, we've are trying to fill out all these various scenarios to enable you all to be successful. And one of the big things, and Kyle from the team will be sharing this, is around doing standardized configuration. So being able to take like customers and have them set up and configured and continuously monitor for that deployment status. And that really then ties back into managing at scale, right? We want to be able to do that at a point where you can have your technicians out there getting things set up and configured and monitored in a way that you have a single pane of glass. And of course, we're doing all this to improve security across our shared SMB customers. We want you to be able to monitor for events, be that vulnerabilities or risky behaviors around user accounts, and then being able to take action from within Lighthouse, or if you're down into the weeds of resolving a user or a device or some piece of data for a customer, quickly being able to get to that point to take action. And I think we all would agree we want us to get into a proactive position, get further away from the break fix world, being in front of the problems or challenges that our users are facing, getting things resolved into a healthy state, and then demonstrating that value to our customers. And that's really what M365 Lighthouse is all about. With that, I will bring up one slide, which is business premium. So we really are focused on the value that's included in M365 Business Premium. We believe this is the right subscription, or is our hero subscription for our SMB customers. So the 1 to 300. We think it has the right tool set around Office and collaboration, real-time collaboration, but then it also adds in all the right security and management capabilities around MDB and Intune, so that you can proactively get those insights around vulnerability, or be able to manage a device and making sure that they stay in a compliant state with Intune. That being said, we don't restrict to business premium. So the way to think about it is we're focused on what's packaged when we think about what we add to Lighthouse. We prioritize what's packaged in business premium, but there's still value to be had for users that don't have business premium. So if you have a customer that's onboarded to M365 Lighthouse, and that customer has a mix of, let's say, business standard and business premium users, you can definitely go in, you can search for all the users across that tenant, perform everyday actions like a password reset. But the lens in which we focus our prioritization is all on that business premium offering. With that, I'll jump into the requirements for M365 Lighthouse. So M365 Lighthouse runs within your partner tenant. To actually get it set up and configured, you do have to be enrolled in our cloud solution provider program, and you have to be an indirect reseller or a direct bill partner to use Lighthouse. Other than that, it's a free service. It's fairly straightforward to go get. If you go into your partner tenant, sign in as a global admin, and you can go down to services, search for the M365 Lighthouse service, and you can add it to your tenant for free. It's a free offer that you add to your tenant, and at that point, Lighthouse is there, and you can go over to lighthouse.microsoft.com to start managing your customers. That being said, there are some requirements to be able to successfully manage those customer tenants. One, you must have DAP or GDAP. That being said, you don't need DAP or GDAP set up, but in order to really take advantage of M365 Lighthouse, you'll have to get DAP or GDAP set up on your customer tenants. Of course, we'd highly recommend at this point just GDAP, because DAP is on the way out, and Meg will show in a short bit how you can actually use Lighthouse as an MSP to configure GDAP. We've done a lot of work to really provide a custom experience for our managed service providers to get GDAP set up and configured. So that's step one. Step two is that you must have one of the following subscriptions on the customer tenant. Not every user needs to have one of these subscriptions. You just need a single subscription of one of these for Lighthouse to be successful at managing the tenant. So of course we include that M365 Business Premium, but we also support M365 E3, E5, Windows 365 Business, and Microsoft Defender for Business. That being said, once you have one, will allow you to manage all your users, for example, within M365 Lighthouse. We are looking to expand this list in the near future, but that's still to come. Beyond that, we do only support customers with up to 2,500 licensed users. So we are focused in that SMB space. We believe 2,500 licensed users should be sufficient for the vast majority of MSPs that are managing our SMB customers. And then lastly, the customer tenant must be present in the same geographical region as the partner tenant. So that's the requirements, the boring stuff. I think the more interesting stuff is demos and showing the product and getting into details. So with that, Meg, I believe I'm passing it on to you to share the GDAP story.
Great, thank you, Chris. I will start sharing my screen here. You can get ready to go into the demo. Great. All right, so assuming you all can see my screen. Hi everyone, my name is Meg and I'm a PM focused on delegated access management in M365 Lighthouse. So first of all, what is GDAP? GDAP stands for Granular Delegated Admin Privileges and is an evolution of Delegated Admin Privileges, or DAP. So Microsoft released GDAP to enable partners to move towards a least privilege approach to customer access by offering 1, granular delegated roles, 2, an improved data security, and 3, enabling time-bound access per customer. However, GDAP's granularity can add to the complexity of setup and management of your delegated access. For one, there are over 70+ different Azure AD roles to choose from with GDAP, and not to mention security groups to monitor and new relationships to manage with your customers. So all that said, we've spent over the past year working with MSPs across the globe of all different sizes and shapes to land on our GDAP setup experience that's available in Lighthouse today. And some of the key benefits, which you'll see as we go through this wizard, is that there are role recommendations built in based on different job functions that we've heard exist at MSPs. We've also enabled the ability to create reusable GDAP templates so that you can save your settings and reapply them as new customers are onboarded. And finally, the option to set up just-in-time access to highly privileged roles like global admin if needed to manage your customers. So with that, I'll get into the demo. After logging into Lighthouse with MFA, the first thing that you'll do is probably see this GDAP setup homepage card. So you'll click in to the GDAP setup experience. And the first thing that you'll do as someone responsible for setting up GDAP at your MSP is define the support roles that you'll need to manage your customers and organize your permissions across different groups of employees. In collaboration with MSPs, we've developed 5 support roles for our default recommendations. 1, account managers, 2, service desk agents, 3, specialists, 4, escalation engineers, and 5, JIT agents. So for example, account managers may just need to read licensing or usage information and just need a few Azure AD roles. Whereas escalation engineers may need to access customer tenants more frequently to do more hands-on proactive services across all Microsoft workloads. So you'll see a lot more Azure AD roles selected by default for this support role. Finally, we have the JIT agents, which include highly privileged roles like global admin and a few others. In the next few steps, we'll get into the details of how that's configured. So we'll get into that soon. On this page, you can either choose to adopt recommended roles or customize as best fits your organization. And you can also change the names of these support roles as well based on your preferences. Later on, if you feel that you only need one or two of those support roles, that's an option as well when you're creating GDAP templates. So that's the next step, is to create your GDAP templates after you've defined the support roles needed. So here you can see that GDAP templates have already been created. We click on one, we can see that for the Premier Customers GDAP template, we've chosen to include all of the 5 support roles. So for example, in this demo, my Premier customers might be ones that I'm doing hands-on day-to-day management, and I'm in their tenant every day to help stand up their IT. By contrast, my basic support customers, maybe I'm only accessing them on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis, so I don't need those high privileges on a consistent basis. Perhaps I just need service desk agent privileges and JIT for when there might be an urgent scenario and I need to have that level of access to administer their environment. So as you can see, you can choose which support roles are applicable. And you also have the option to create multiple GDAP templates to segment permissions across different groups of customers. Getting into the next step, which is to assign users to support roles. So this is the part where you'll be organizing permissions for different employees. So you can see here for the Premier Customers GDAP template, we've chosen to include all 5 support roles. And what's needed is to create security groups and then add users to those security groups. The users in those security groups will be granted the roles defined by the GDAP template for the customers that we will assign this GDAP template to. So for example, Megan Bowen here is an account manager for the Premier Customers GDAP template. Go ahead and move to the next one here. And this will be defining the same groups of employees for our basic support GDAP template. Pardon my internet today being a little slow. All right, and I'll show you, there are a few more settings to configure when it comes to the just-in-time agent group. So I'll start from the bottom. The first is this approver group. So the approver group are the users who are responsible for approving access requests from your JIT agents. The approver group must be a role assignable security group, which you can choose from your Azure AD. So you can see here, these are all of the existing role assignable security groups that I can assign to be the approvers. There are a few other settings here that you'll see as well, including the user eligibility duration in hours, which is the number of hours JIT agents have access to the roles once they've been approved, and the eligibility expiration in days, which is the amount of days JIT agents are eligible to be able to request access. And now, after configuring these settings and finishing GDAP setup, what happens is a JIT policy is created in the background by Lighthouse, which can be found in the Azure AD Identity Governance portal, which is linked here as well. And after setup, JIT agents will be ready to request access, and the approvers will be ready to approve access. So after I complete this demo, I'll show you exactly what that looks like, so we can dig into that experience as well. Go ahead and move on to the next step here, which is finally assigning the customer tenants to the GDAP templates.
While that's queuing up, Meg, I actually have a question that I've been asked by a few MSPs and a couple today also. Those roles where you can customize escalation engineers, service desk, JIT only, that would also very much align with how a lot of MSPs wanted to maybe rename them level 1, level 2, level 3, things like that, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Perfect. Yep. So if you guys have standard operating procedures out there with your help desk engineers already, remember that these roles can all be renamed to manage all of your SOP documentation. So Lighthouse will reflect your internal reporting accurately. But that's a really, really cool feature that was built in here. Thanks, Meg.
Yeah, no, thanks, David. That's a great call out. All right, so we get to this last step here of assigning tenants. So in this example, you'll notice that a few tenants were already assigned to the GDAP templates. So let's say I've had a few more customers onboarded and I need to apply them to the basic support GDAP template, Fusion Tomo and Graphic Design Institute. So I'll go ahead and select them here and then move on to the next step, which is to review and finish the settings that you've configured. So we'll have a chance to review everything that we've set up, make sure everything looks good before finally hitting finish and having those settings apply. You can see here the support roles, as well as the 2 GDAP templates for Premier customers. And basic support, you can see that we've added Fusion Tomo and Graphic Design Institute here. They still have DAP relationships, so we need to get them set up with GDAP. I'll go ahead and hit finish. And what it's doing is creating those GDAP relationships for you, assigning the security groups for you that you've configured with all of the right employees and the roles that should be assigned to those security groups so that your users are ready and set up with their GDAP roles to be able to manage customer tenants. So we've gotten to the last page of GDAP setup. You can see a summary here of what you've configured across the different customers. For active customers, all settings have been applied. And for customers where you see the send an admin relationship request, they still require customer approval. So currently Microsoft is offering a window where if you have pre-existing DAP, you can use our setup experience to create GDAP relationships without needing customer approval because the customer has already approved that DAP relationship. In July, Microsoft has said we'll start deprecating DAP relationships. And if you haven't migrated, they'll also migrate relationships for you with a much more limited set of Azure AD roles than what GDAP setup in Lighthouse offers. So our ask is that you consider the Lighthouse experience to set up GDAP so you can get ahead of these milestones and start planning for and implementing GDAP to help get both your tenant and your customer tenant secure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meg, on this too. And guys, remember that in your time with us, as you're working with us, feel free to book time with us because we can also walk through this setup process with you. But this is definitely something we want to get squared away within the next couple of months for all of our partners.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a few more things to show in the time that we have here. So, all right, so this is what it looks like on the Partner Center side, right? So for that customer Fusion Tomo where we applied the basic support GDAP template, we can see that that GDAP relationship has been created. Those security groups have been assigned. So we've done all that work for you. In addition to that, I'll briefly show what the JIT experience looks like as well. So we had 2 GDAP templates. Both of those had JIT enabled within them. So we can see that these are the 2 JIT policies that Lighthouse created to be able to enable that scenario. And these can be found in the Identity Governance portal. Now, the request and then approval process is done in the myaccess.microsoft.com portal. So here I am logged in as a JIT agent, Megan, who was a JIT agent for that basic support GDAP template. This is where I can request access to those JIT agent roles when I need to. And then as the approver, once that request goes through, this is where you'd go in and review those requests to approve or deny them. And then once approved, the JIT agent would be granted those roles so that they can take the action they need to manage their customer tenants. And then one more experience that I wanted to show. This, so the GDAP setup experience is available now, 100% for everyone. So you should see it here when you log into Lighthouse and register on this homepage card. What we are working on rolling out now is this delegated access page to be able to help you track and manage your GDAP migration. So here you can see a summary of what you've configured across all of your tenants. So you can see here, I'm able to see which customers might still have DAP, which have GDAP, which have a GDAP template applied, how many active or pending relationships, as well as expiration dates and security groups. So lots to come here as well in terms of building out functionality on this page. There's a lot more to come. So this is an experience that's currently rolling out, but we're excited to see and hear feedback from the community around what else we can add to this to help you manage delegated access across all of your customers.
Awesome, awesome stuff. We've already got some partners showing interest in setting this up too. So yes, guys, if you're in the program and you want to help doing this, let us know. Of course, Microsoft support is there to help you too. But if you want to get a head start on this, definitely use the support center and then book that time right in there with us, because we want to get this set up for you. I'm really, really happy with how easy it was for Netlogic to do this using this one wizard.
Great. Thanks, David. I'll pass it off to Kyle.
Kyle, I am bringing you to the stage.
Thank you. So once you've got GDAP set up, now the fun begins. This is the part where we're going to talk about baselines and how you get your tenants configured to your desired state, and then a couple things that we'll show you around how you keep them there. Disclaimer, there are a few things that I'm going to show you that are features that we're currently flighting. So you may not personally have that feature yet. So if you see something that looks really cool, but you don't have it yet, it makes you feel bad, don't worry. It's going to be in your Lighthouse very, very soon. But with that said, let's go into a tenant. A couple things we see on the overview page of the tenant is right from here, I can see what the deployment status is for this tenant out of all the tasks that are there and all the users that are in the tenant. How are we doing? I can then go into the deployment plan, and here's where you see all of the tasks that are in the Lighthouse default baseline. So good things like requiring MFA, blocking legacy auth, app protections, Defender, and so on. And there's something that is very cool here, which is that Lighthouse will be querying your tenants automatically. So when you onboard a new tenant, instead of having to go in and have this exhaustive process of trying to figure out how that tenant is configured and how it compares to how you want it configured, we're going to do that work for you. So with a tenant that already has configurations deployed to it, you would see this data here light up, and we would be able to tell you, for example, these tasks are already compliant, these tasks aren't compliant, and these ones they're not even licensed for. And so that takes quite a bit of the work out of onboarding a new tenant, gives you more time back to work with your customers. Let's go into a task and let's see what happens. This is our first task to require MFA for admins, and let's deploy it. So here, the first page, we can review the task and see exactly which settings we're going to apply. When we hit the next button, it's going to take a look to see if there are any conditional access policies already deployed for MFA. And I'll show you what that experience looks like in a moment. In this case, this is a new tenant. So let's hit next. Let's confirm. And this is going to deploy that policy as configured in the baseline to that tenant right from Lighthouse. If I go to my next task, it's about requiring MFA for all the other users. And I'll show you one quick trick here is that this is a link directly to that management portal via delegated access. So right there from task details, I'm taken directly into the Azure Active Directory portal for this tenant. In this case, let's start the deployment process. Here we can see similar, here's all the different settings that are going to be applied. When I hit next, it'll show us the configurations that we have just deployed. And it'll allow us to compare them to the default baseline. What I'm going to do, though, is show you another quick function, which is we realize that not every task is one that you're going to want to complete or you're going to want to complete right now. In those cases, you can dismiss the task. So we can dismiss the task for one of these three reasons, and we can provide a justification. In this case, we might say, let's not do this because it's a bad idea. We prefer to just let it ride. We can save that. And now this task is dismissed. It won't affect some of the deployment insights we'll show you in a bit, and you won't be able to deploy it. But you can go back. It's not a permanent decision. We can hit reinstate, and it'll tell us who did that, why did they do that, and if you decide that this is not a good reason, let's hit the reinstate button. Let's bring that task back onto our to-do list. So once it's there, and oh, by the way, now you see this first task is showing compliance. We can see that there were 9 users in this tenant. 8 of them are not targeted, so 8 of them were not admins. 1 of them is now compliant because of that policy. Let's go back into this task now that we've reinstated it. Let's hit next. And here we can see Lighthouse telling us we found this other configuration. And then what's really cool is it'll show us by setting, by policy, by user, where are we aligned with our deployment plan and where are we off? So in this case, it's showing us that we've got these 8 users that MFA is required for by our deployment plan. But if we look at the only policy that we can detect, there's no setting there for them. So I could do one of 2 things at this point. One is I could just deploy another policy that requires MFA for all users, but I'll show you something else. Another way to go about it is I might decide instead to edit that existing policy. So I can go in by clicking right there on the policy name. And here, where we have select users and groups, I just change this to all users. Let's save that. Oh, but I should probably change the name too, shouldn't I? So it's not so confusing when I go back and look that it says all users. I'll go back and do that later. Now, when we go here, we can see that all users MFA is required for. There are no settings that are not compliant or missing. There's no extra settings here for us to take a look at. So that is cool. And so with this deployment plan, you can take a look task by task to see whether and to what degree your tenant's already configured the way you want it to be. And you can take specific actions through that wizard to tailor the baseline into the deployment plan for this specific tenant until we get to a place where there's no more tasks that aren't compliant or that we're not licensed for. You also can see deployment progress by user. So if you wanted to, you can look on an individual user basis to see what the task progress is for deployment tasks that are assigned to those users, and you can see their status for each of those tasks. So in this case, we can look at Miriam. When we open Miriam from this page, we can see Miriam's status for each one of those tasks. And another fun trick is right from here, if we want to, we can view user details. It'll open the user details panel from the Microsoft Admin Center and allows me the full functionality that I've got there by virtue of my GDAP permissions. And so there's some powerful capabilities here that help you understand deployment state within a specific tenant. And that is very cool, but I'm going to show you 2 other things that are even cooler. One is you might have a different idea about how you want tenants configured. You might have a desire to have something that's a more rigid security posture, more comprehensive compliance configuration. In that case, you'll be able to go to the baselines page and we can make a new baseline. I can either start from scratch, or if I say I really like the default baseline, but I'm going to add 1 or 2 things, let me clone that baseline. It'll take that baseline as written. And once we've got that set up, let's go in. We can edit it. Now we've got our new baseline, but now we need to add the stuff. So let's go into that baseline. and we're going to add a task. I can get task from one of two places. I can either get it from another baseline, or I can clone it from an existing tenant. So for those of you that have a test tenant that you use to create configurations and test them before you deploy them to your customers, you'll be able to pull all of your configurations from that tenant as well. If we're pulling from another baseline, I have the ability to hit the clone button. It'll ask me which baseline I want to go shopping from. It'll ask me which task I want to grab, and I can pull it in. But what you also saw here is that I can clone configurations from an existing tenant. Here's a list of the different configuration types that we're able to extract today. Without going into specifics, I tell you that we're just getting started, and we want to be able to give you as much access as possible to be able to replicate configurations from one tenant to the next via a baseline. So in this case, I would be able to say, let's look at these different tenants that we have. There's that tenant there. It's going to take a look to see what configurations are there. It has that configuration that we just deployed, and I can make this my new task, and I can pull that in. So now I've got default baseline plus some other stuff. When I go back to the tenants page, if I decide that I want to change that, maybe here, I want to give this tenant we were just looking at, that new baseline, I can select that tenant or multiple tenants, by the way. Pick assign baseline, let's assign the default baseline plus some stuff. And it will change that assignment. The new tasks will be assigned on a per tenant per user basis, and we'll go back in and re-query that tenant to determine the deployment status for each of the assigned tasks. And that's very cool too, but cooler still is that while what you've seen here lets you get extremely granular on a tenant by tenant basis, there's a ton of value in having a multi-tenant view, right? And so you will, if you don't already have it, soon see the Deployment Insights report, which does just that. It shows me the deployment status across all of the tenants I manage and all of the users in those tenants. And so I've got some helpful graphical data up here. I've got a table where I've got some drill down information. There's a couple cool things that happen here. One is that I can see progress on two different axes, right? I can see it by task, I can see it by user, and I can also see exceptions. This is very useful from an auditing perspective, where I might look here and say, even if it says that these tasks are not needing to be done, I've got 2 dismissed tasks here. I've got 4 dismissed tasks here, and I may want to know what those tasks are, who dismissed them, and why, and I might not want them dismissed. If I've got tasks that have regressed from a previous state of compliance, so let's say you had a tenant was configured exactly the way you want it, then they go in and add another user doesn't have the required licenses. Now, when we query that tenant, we're going to see this tenant's not compliant. And one of the things we've heard from partners is that it's really cool to be able to get a tenant configured the way you want it. But what might keep us up at night is wondering if it's still set that way. And instead of having to go back and check each tenant one by one to make sure that there were no shenanigans, we'll actually be querying that for you, and we will send you an alert to let you know if there's something you might want to take a look at. And similarly, you can see how many different users have been excluded and how many different exclusions have occurred. If I want to go into more detail, we can pull up the details panel. I can click directly into the deployment plan for that tenant, but here I get a little bit more information. So now at a glance, I can see not just how many tasks are complete, but I can see which tasks are assigned. I can see the status of those tasks. If there were dismissed tasks, I'll be able to see those here. And so, for example, where we've got these handy traverse buttons here, I can click across one of these surfaces to see different tenants. Here I can see these are the 4 tasks that were dismissed. These are the reasons that were given. Those are the justifications. And if I don't like those, because I don't like this justification, I can grab it, same as you saw before, and from here, reinstate that task directly into that tenant-specific deployment plan.
Kyle, a point of clarity that I've seen with a lot of questions too. These dismissed tasks. Now, I'll be very upset and sad. You'll be very sad. The whole team will be sad. But let's say an MSP is using a third-party MFA service like Duo Authenticator, and they did not want Lighthouse reporting on MFA status because they're monitoring that outside. That would be a great example of a reason to dismiss a task with some logical steps in it, right?
That could be a reason to do it. There's a number of reasons that we've heard from partners. Another scenario that's come up is there's a partner who was using a webroot solution instead of Defender. In this case, they want to get to a place where they're just working in the Microsoft stack, right? They're aware of the benefits of having that operational efficiency and that consistency of offering from a marketing, operational, sales perspective, right? But they're not there yet. So they've dismissed that task. And when the time comes, they will reinstate that task and we'll report that information for them. Alternatively, they could write a baseline that did not include those tasks if that would be their preference. But in that particular partner's case, they're wanting to get to Defender very soon. So they've chosen to leave it on there.
And that's a great way to think about these guys as you're going through, even if you are working with some lingering third-party solutions, or you're going to stay with third-party solutions. It's always great to keep to that default baseline as a starting place, and then you can make your exclusions there. So that's also a great reminder of what this customer is using first party and what they're using third party. So thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, and there's just a couple more things, and I'll let you hear from Raj because he's got even cooler stuff to talk about. Is I can also see required licenses. So for all of the tasks that are assigned to a specific tenant and its users, there's licensing requirements. What we can do is see if those users have those licenses. Where they don't, we're able to provide that insight here so that we can see if we wanted to make sure that everyone had a license to be able to require MFA within this Contoso tenant. I need to get Eric that license. I can open up Eric's detail panel right here, and if I have the appropriate permissions, I can assign that license right from here. I can also, as an example of just how to leverage Lighthouse, I could decide that Eric should be excluded for some reason from this requirement. I can go into that deployment task. I can exclude Eric so that Lighthouse knows not to look for that policy assigned to that user anymore, but to make sure that that isn't just an open threat vector out of sight, out of mind. When you go to your deployment insights report, you would see there's one user excluded and there's one exclusion for that user. And then one more thing that we can show you, if we go back to a tenant we were looking at. Go into our default, our new baseline. And if we open up one of these tasks, something that you will see here populate is detection history. So you'll be able to see each time we query this tenant to make sure that it's still set exactly the way you want it. And where there's any variance between how the tenant is set and how you want it, you'll be able to see when that occurred, what exactly occurred, and then go back into that deployment task and be able to see, instead of having to try and pull your hair out, figure out what on earth could have happened that now this tenant isn't set the way I want it, you'll be able within a couple of clicks to see exactly which settings for exactly which users and exactly which policies have deviated from your plan so that you can adjust your plan or adjust your configuration. So some really powerful capabilities, but this is just a means to an end. I'll give it to Raj, who's going to show you why you bother with this. What are some of the really cool capabilities of Lighthouse once you've got your tenants configured? So all yours, Raj.
Thank you, Kyle. And hopefully folks can see my screen as well.
Looks great.
Thank you, David. So I'm Raj, one of the another PM on the Lighthouse team. And Kyle showed you our deployment story and how you can very easily get all your tenants into a secure and productive state with the help of Lighthouse and deployment and baselines. But you also need to keep your tenants in that secure and healthy state on an ongoing basis. So I'm going to quickly show you a few of the capabilities in Lighthouse that will ensure you can stay on top of the state of your tenants. One other thing I'll mention right as I jump into the demo is that if you look at Lighthouse and all the security value we are offering, there's three major buckets to think about how all these items fit in. One of them is managing and securing your users. The second is securing your devices. And the third one is securing your data, because these are the three vectors that are often under attack and needs to be secured. So I'm going to first start with the user and identity management aspect of this. So I'm on the homepage of Lighthouse. On the left now, I do see an entire section for users, which if I expand, I see a lot of interesting capabilities around account management, risky users, MFA, and the likes. I'm first going to go into account management because one thing we've heard a lot is that MSPs spend a lot of time in basic user management tasks throughout the days and weeks. And these could be tasks like resetting a password of a user at one of your customer tenants. This could be assigning them a different license or a new application or something of that sort. So previously, before Lighthouse and multi-tenancy existed, you would have to go to Partner Center and find that tenant which has the user whose password you want to reset, find that, click on that tenant, go into the AD portal or the M365 admin center for that tenant, find that user, click on the user, and then be able to reset their password. But now with Lighthouse, we've tried to really simplify and remove as much friction as we can in that path. So I have a very simple search box here, and imagine I got a request from one of my customers, a certain Alex, whose password needs to be reset. And all I can do, or all I need to do here rather, is come here and just type Alex. And immediately you'll see a query being fanned out to all the customer tenants that I manage in search of Alex. And in this case, it looks like I have an Alexandra, a couple of Alex, in these tenants. The Alex I was looking for is the Alex from Contoso. So Alex Wilbur. So I'm going to click on that user. And much like Kyle showed you, we'll bring up the user details panel here, which will have all the information and all the capabilities that you'll need to usually act on to service this user. So from here, I can click on reset password. And a couple more clicks, and I'm off unblocking this user and getting him a new password. And it's not just reset password. You can do a whole slew of capabilities from here, where you can reset password, assign licenses or application, manage their mailbox, manage their OneDrive, and a few other settings here as well. And this is very similar to what you can do in the M365 admin center today. So a very consistent and coherent experience for MSPs who are already used to using the M365 admin center. Now, there's a few more capabilities here. I'm not going to have time to go into all of those, but interesting things you can check out when you get your hands on Lighthouse, if not already, are things like inactive users, where we show you all those user accounts that are not properly offboarded, were never cleaned up, are inactive for a very long period of time, but still have licenses assigned. Now, these are users who've probably who've left the company, but have never been properly onboarded. So you can clean them up, maintain better hygiene, and even reclaim the licenses and let your customers know that they don't have to actually keep paying for those licenses assigned to these inactive users. And similarly, you have some management of shared mailboxes and best practices as well. One thing I will touch on is risky users, because we do hear a lot of interest in this particular scenario in identifying where the risks are with all your user accounts. Now, if a user account exhibited certain risky behavior, those user accounts are flagged as risky users in here. So what I see here is a multi-tenant view. it turns out all my risky users happen to be at just one tenant, Contoso, once again. But in reality, you might see risky users flagged from multiple tenants here. And you can actually investigate right from within Lighthouse what is the reason for them being flagged as risky. In this case, it looks like there is something to do with their sign-in properties. Something looks unfamiliar about it. It might be the IP address, it might be an anonymous IP, or it might be the location they are accessing from versus the location that they usually access all the M365 services from. So this might be something where you can drill in and further investigate. And after you do, you can either reset their password just to mitigate any risk, or even if you find there is no risk, if the user has just been traveling abroad, you can even dismiss the risk in certain other cases.
Can I pause for a minute, Raj, on this risky user detection?
Yeah.
Just quickly say how important this is and how much of a value add this is. If you have not thought of risky users in Azure AD as an MSP as anything more than a nuisance, you're missing out on a big opportunity. I used to work in banking before technology, and in banking, I always would keep track of my customers' cards, transactions, accounts, things like that as a personal banker. And when I gave them a call to say, hey, we saw something a little unusual, is everything okay? Or should we investigate this further and potentially change your passwords or your debit card? They love that. That is a whole new service that MSPs that have not got heavy into identity management can kick off with right away. And this is one of the most useful portals in the entire Lighthouse. So Raj, thank you for going into detail about this.
Yeah, thank you, David. It definitely I can relate to that from what I hear from other MSPs as well. They do find a lot of value in this, and they've even built some managed services on this particular offering, because the customer is delighted when they know that the MSP is keeping a close tab on them, and every little risky activity is being monitored and kept on top of. So totally agree with your statements there.
Awesome. We are getting some questions coming in. Would you guys like to dive into questions in our last few minutes?
Sure, I'll just add that right as we dive into the questions, we could not get into showing you all the capabilities in Lighthouse, but I'd encourage folks to check out the device management capabilities. We have some Microsoft Defender for business integration, like vulnerability management, incidents, device compliance from Intune, and a lot of health and other security scenarios as well. So lots more to come as well in Lighthouse, and this is just the start. But yeah, happy to go on to questions, David.
Awesome. And we'll have this group back. We'll have everyone from our program back, and there'll always be more information about that too. I know we're going to send out a lot of follow-up information. I would love to dive into Q&A with the Microsoft team here, if any partners have it. And I'll kick it off with a question from Dave Rose, specifically around patch management reporting. Does Lighthouse do any patch management reporting and remediation, application health? How does Lighthouse and Endpoint Manager also allow remote control access for support? Are there any plans on that?
So I can take that one, David. So that's a great question. It is both of those elements mentioned are very popular requests, because those are things I know folks are used to doing with their RMM tools today if you use one of them. And patch management, updating your app packages right from within Lighthouse is something we are working on, and we are working closely with the Endpoint Manager and the Intune teams here at Microsoft to bring that capability to Lighthouse in the upcoming future. And the other one, the remoting in aspect, totally understand the need to do that as well. There are certain capabilities and certain plugins that you can use if you're using Intune to achieve that. But that is also, we realize, going from a multi-tenant device list to be able to remote in is different from being able to do that from a single tenant portal. So that is also something in our radar to go tackle and provide in Lighthouse. So
awesome. Another question that had come in is, does Lighthouse have any issues if a tenant is co-managed by two partners? So let's say people are double GDAPing.
I can take that one. No, it should work perfectly fine in that scenario. Now, of course, you guys could start battling it out on certain cases if you start resetting passwords on users, but
Awesome.
it is a supported scenario.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's a great point too, to call out, Stephen, for partners that work with CSPs or of course My365. You can, as long as that organization has the appropriate GDAP permissions, there won't be any limitations, and you can have a number of partners linked to one tenant. Bill Perkins, what about notifications? How do we send notifications? Is there any function in Lighthouse to help us send MFA reminders to end users, or steps to help us prepare them?
Maybe I can touch on that quickly. So you saw me show you a lot of, or I didn't show you a lot. I showed you some operational capabilities like risky users. And like David mentioned, there's also MFA insights in Lighthouse. But today they're all static reports. You have to log into Lighthouse and then view those alerts. But we are very actively working on our alert story, which will allow you to see all the different types of alerts consolidated in a single page. And from there, create alert rules, which will allow you to be notified anytime an alert of your chosen criteria happens. So if a device falls out of compliance, if a user is not enabled for MFA, or a risky user gets flagged, without logging into Lighthouse, you will very soon be able to get notified on all of those as well.
And that brings us right into our next question, what kind of reporting capabilities are planned from Randy? So what kind of, and I think Randy, you're talking a little bit about alerts. I know you've asked me these questions before. Another thing is the ability to generate customer insights and stories in a sort of holistic customer report.
Yeah, Randy, I think if the I hear the question, David, is being able to generate like a full 360 view on a customer, everything that's going on. Is that right?
Yeah, and also the ability to set up alerts and based on triggers and actions.
Yeah, alerts, like I mentioned, is definitely coming soon. We are also exploring another 360 report to what was mentioned. So now today you see all these multi-tenant reports very focused on a vertical like risky users or MFA or vulnerabilities, but we are also having our plans to work on like a 360 report, which will give you the entire view of what all is going on with that customer, what are all the value that you as a partner have provided to that customer, and all of that as well.
Awesome. As we approach our last 2 minutes, Alex, who is the leader of the Lighthouse community, would you like to speak to anything about the Lighthouse community and maybe MSPs that are interested in joining and participating? And I'd be happy to collect that information.
Absolutely. Can I share my screen, David? I'll take the 2 minutes that I have.
Yep.
All right.
You should be able to. Yep.
Right. So hi, everyone. My name is Alex Greer. I manage the M365 Lighthouse SMB community. So I want to thank everybody that's already part of the community for all your feedback in helping us build the Lighthouse product. So the way we engage with our partners, quick overviews, we have monthly community calls. And thanks, David, and your team for joining. We see you there and participating, where we show the roadmap of Lighthouse. We show you demos of upcoming features. We get your feedback. We also do some training during those calls. So we have some Intel folks. We have some teams from AAD, Azure Active Directory, and other teams that are related to the Lighthouse that come and do some announcements and trainings as well. The second way we interact with our community is we have a Teams community channel where you can post questions and interact with the Lighthouse engineering team directly. I also schedule one-on-one quarterly calls with most of our partners to get your feedback and just check how you're doing in using the Lighthouse tool. And we have another M365 Lighthouse feedback tool where you can go and vote on features that have been requested. And we also go there and check, interact with you. And we use that feedback to prioritize our roadmap. And a few requirements for joining our community: you must have tenants onboarded in M365 Lighthouse using the Business Premium license. Be willing to participate in our monthly community calls at least once every quarter. Be active participant in the Teams channel. We post announcements and we post upcoming meetings there. And also be willing to once in a while meet one-on-one with our engineering team to give us feedback on the product. Like we'll show you the features we're working on. Sometimes it's mocks, sometimes it's already more developed feature, and you can give us feedback through that. And the benefits that you gain from joining the community is you are in the know of the roadmap of Lighthouse, and you can be giving us feedback on what you would like to see next. And we will work on that. We have a very neat community who we listen to, and we would like to see all of you there. So if you have any questions and you would like to join, there's my email on the left, and I can get you onboarded on the community. That was my 2 minutes. Back to you. Are there any questions on the community?
Yeah, if there are any questions, guys, what I want to say, and a big thank you to our partners at Microsoft. It has been an absolute pleasure working with all of you, having you all in the group. All the feedback that I've been able to provide to you guys has come from this group that we put together. So it's really exciting to see a lot of those things come together. I've seen 7 Lighthouse discoveries come across my desk in the last 30 minutes. So that's really exciting. And I'm looking forward to working with our partners that are on the call next week to get all these tenants onboarded to Microsoft Lighthouse. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join this call. I will see y'all out there in the cloud, and have a great weekend, everybody. We will be sending out communication and information and follow up. All of those details will come out on Monday. Thanks, everybody, and have a great weekend.
Are you ready to embrace the modern workplace? Then you need Netlogic My365, the complete cloud-based digital platform built on Microsoft. My365 provides collaboration, communication, automation, and security in one simple, fast, and scalable solution. Netlogic's team of experts will help you sleep soundly at night, knowing your business data and users are secure. Work from any device, anywhere, anytime. With Netlogic My365, you can relax. Your IT is covered. Go to netlogiccomputer.com/My365.